Every writer has his little tricks, obsessions, manners, mannerisms, little ideological things that he invented that may help, illusions that may help his or her writing. I argue, and writing novels for the last 50 years, that we novelists or fiction writers first invent or see a scene as a picture. Henry James referred to it as I'm thinking of a story, but I'm curious about who will see the story, meaning who will narrate, who is the narrative consciousness, and going into details. Yes, so a story is first a picture. Then the talented writer puts that picture into words, edits that, makes a story, a text. Then the reader reads those words, hoping to evoke the same pictures the writer, he or she, had in his or her mind. Now reader tries his best to create those pictures to understand, and calls this understanding the writer. So we exchange pictures, we writers, with the readers, with words helping us. We do what Greek scholars now call ekphrasis of these mental pictures, put them in words so that the reader sees them. So at first there are pictures in my imagination. Then it's like shooting a movie in my mind. Then I write and narrate that movie. So this guy comes here, maybe he pulls out his gun, or they kiss, they walk down the stairs, there's certain light coming. First, I always see pictures. But on the other hand, there are writers who work with pictures. Let's call them writers, visual writers, Tolstoy, Proust, Nobel. But there are also writers who address most dramatical moments without pictures. Dostoevsky, you read 5 pages of Dostoevsky, intense drama, and you cannot see what's in that room. No objects are described, nothing. It's only dark, and that's all. So I am less Dostoevsky, more Tolstoy, Proust. That is, I'm a visual writer, and I first see a novel in my mind's eye or in my imagination as a picture. A novel is a series of pictures. Then I write about these pictures in such a way that you would also love to read that and evoke the pictures I have in my mind in your mind. This is the subject of my book, Naive and Sentimental Novelists, which were lectures that I delivered at Harvard University. Of course, writing is a lot of emotional. There are moments that I feel very lyrical, that I'm writing almost poetry. I'm not following the meaning of what I'm writing. I am possessed, inspired by outer force, just like a poet. These are poetic moments. There are moments in my writing I'm very rational. I'm preparing the reader for a scene. I'm even counting words, the effect, motivation, what will the reader see. I am not in a poetic, sentimental mood. I'm a rational, engineer-like mood. And there are variations of these moods. Teaching creative writing, sometimes I argue, I go to students and say, being a novelist is learning about your moods and what kind of mood this page, this chapter, these certain pages demand from you. You'd better write, if you're in that mood, you'd better write poetic mood, that pages today. But if you're in a more rational, Cartesian, logical mood in which a novel, a work of art, a musical piece is an instrument like an engineering, and you have to engineer the novel, then you have to write these things maybe early in the morning, maybe poetic mood some other time. So a novel demands that its writer should be able to manage his or her moods and address the demands of the text in a sentimental way and pull out the feelings that he has nurtured to write this novel in the right moment, the right time. And it's better to write some pieces, some chapters in a novel only once that lyrical poetry should come. Or while on the other hand, other chapters I rewrite 10 times or 3 times because it's more like a piece of engineering. So a novel requires all sorts of moods. Sometimes the writer identifies with the character, situation, lyrical, sometimes rational, sometimes angry, sometimes economical, sometimes looking for a pace, sometimes you don't have anything to express, but the text has some music, you follow that music, blah, 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 blah. And I said, man, why don't I write a sentence like that will fill this music? So it's all various moods. A novelist should be a complex person who identifies his or her feelings and reflects them in the text in such a way that the sentiments are not wasted, in fact are used to serve the quality of the text. Every writer has some little discipline things, some gestures, some obsessions. Mine is simple. I like to look at a landscape. It's as if I am making my eyes rest for a while. That if I write, then I'm stuck someplace. I look at a romantic landscape, any landscape from above, my imagination works. But I don't want to exaggerate even that. I also, when I'm in New York, work at Columbia University libraries. Just when students sit next to me and I write my novel, they know that I'm writing my novel. It's all okay. I can write in any place. I'm a slow writer. I also sometimes drew paintings or when I write. That's all. It's a discipline that you learn. You sit in even in the most crowded place, in an airplane, in a train, in a university library, and your imagination begins to work like a child's imagination. And I write. I have to. I learned that. I'm doing this for the last 50 years. That I am not snobbishly complaining about, oh, I would have written this or that. No, I write. Landscape helps me to write. My imagination, romantic imagination is fueled by landscape. That's all I need.